Alright, SilverArk here. It is currently December 31st, 2017. It is 8:42 in the morning, and I just want to make a quick gun video about the guns I currently own. First off, with handguns, I got a Ruger Mark III 22-45 and 22 long rifle. Good old accurate 22. Things I like about it: it fits well in my hand. It reminds me of a 1911, so it has pretty decent ergonomics. The controls are pretty similar. It is accurate and it is mostly reliable, depending on how clean it is. Some cons: it's a 22, so it's going to be finicky depending on what ammo I use. I also don't like that it has a magazine disconnect safety, meaning I cannot, it's clear, I cannot fire unless there's a magazine in it. Now, I also don't like the fact that, I don't know, this one in particular, it's a rather older model, so the finish is kind of worn off, and I just spent 3 hours a few days ago taking this apart and cleaning up all the rust that was on it. Another thing I don't like about it is the way it's disassembled. It is a pain to, well, actually it's not a pain to disassemble, it's a pain to reassemble if you don't have the parts in the right configuration, and you're gonna have to bash out the rear component that holds the firing mechanism. Other than that, it's a decent 22. It's a decent handgun to start training with. Up next, I have a Versa Thunder 380. This one is currently loaded with spare gold dots. Sorry. Things I like about this one: it is mostly reliable. The only issues I've had with it is when I'm firing those flat nose from like Winchester. So I stay away from Winchester when it comes to 380. But it's relatively accurate. It shoots really well, even though it's a small gun, because of the trigger and the fact it's a 380. It shoots pretty smoothly. Things I don't like about it: it's a 380, so it's not the best self-defense compared to a 9, but it's better than nothing. What else? It also doesn't have a what do they call it? Frame safety that would have the key to lock in like a Smith & Wesson revolvers do. Well, this one in particular, because it's an older model. Newer models will have it. I also don't like that it has a magazine disconnect safety, because let's say I don't have a magazine in it, but I still have one in the pipe. I'm not going to be able to fire it. But other than that, it's a nice little gun. It is definitely accurate. I keep this on my desk while I'm working on stuff at home, so there's that. Up next, good old, one of the most common 9mm in the world, Glock 19 Gen 3. There's nothing more I can say about Glock that people haven't said before. It is accurate, reliable. This one I have loaded with Hornady Critical Duty 135 grain plus P. And I keep it as a nightstand gun next to my bed, so that's why I have a flashlight on it. Pros: it's pretty much dead reliable unless you mess around with the internals. It's pretty accurate, actually. The thing with me is because the way I hold it, well, the way my hand's formed, I have to kind of shoot at a 6 o'clock angle for it to shoot accurately, but no, that's just me. Cons: I have no cons to say about it. I love Glock 19s, actually. Before, I used to actually hate Glocks, but that's before I shot it. I just thought it looked ugly, whatever. I was one of those guys that thought, oh, every gun needed manual safety, and then I bought one, shot it a lot, and I don't know, it's become one of my favorite handguns. I would take this into battle with me without regrets. Alright, my last handgun I have so far is a good old American classic, good old 1911 chambered in 45 ACP. This one is made by, well, they're not in the best, what do you call it, place with the gun community right now because of all the shenanigans they're doing. But regardless, this first 45 that I've ever owned, and I love it. 1911s was my favorite guns for the longest time, ever since I knew about it. I love how they look. I love the way they feel in my hand, and this is probably my most accurate handgun of all time, just because of the trigger and the fact it's single action. great ergonomics. It's gonna kick a little bit, well, just because it's a 45, but because of the weight of the handgun, it's very manageable. I could shoot pretty much one hole targets with this if I do my part. Cons about it, single action. So let's say I pull the trigger and I need to fire again, right? But the hammer's down, it's not gonna fire. So the hammer has to be back for it to fire. It's not a big concern for me, but you know, beaver tail safety is kind of outdated. But other than that, I love 1911s. I don't really care that it's a single stack. I don't really care that the 45s aren't a fast round. Nah, I don't care. This will work. This will save my life if I needed to, and it's just fun to shoot. All right, now that I'm done with the handguns, I'm going to move on to the long guns right now. The first one I'm going to show is good old 22. This is a Marlin Model 60. This is the first 22 I've ever bought. I bought it for like less than $100 back in the day, and well, back in the day was about 4 years ago for me, but I love this thing. It is incredibly accurate, micro groove barrels. It's not a Ruger 1022, but it's cheaper and it works. The only time I've ever had issues with this one is when I'm shooting subsonic rounds, which obviously it's not going to cycle well, but other than that, I just love this little thing. I use this a lot when I was learning my fundamentals when it comes to shooting. Would I take this, you know, to go fight? If it's the only gun, yes, but I have other choices. But in my opinion, if you're looking for a first gun to buy and you want a good, reliable rifle to start practicing, definitely a Marlin Model 60. Up next, another Marlin. This is a Marlin Model 25 and 22 long rifle. It is a magazine-fed bolt action 22. I prefer my Model 60, but this has its place as well, especially when I'm learning how to shoot bolt actions. Uses the same sighting system as my Model 60. The wood looks to be the same. My main complaint is how the magazines work. I don't have any around me right now. They're all stored up somewhere. But I have to depress a little levers in a weird fashion. I have to yank it out in a weird way. This is relatively accurate for 22. It's probably me because I'm not the best bolt gun shooter, but I can't shoot this as accurate as my Model 60. But other than that, it's a decent gun. Up next is actually my first firearm that I ever purchased. People are going to give me, you know, a lot of crap for this because it's one of those Chinese guns, but well, it's made in China. It's not really a Chinese gun, but Savage Stevens Model 320. This is my first gun that I ever bought, so you know, I was relatively new to the whole firearms thing, but this holds a special place in my heart because I love shotguns, especially this 12 gauge. The first gun I ever bought. Started shooting this, even though it gets kind of expensive shooting buckshot out of this. But it shoots well for me. I could pretty much aim it down range at body, pop a few shells out, and most of it's going to hit center mass. Not much I can say about it other than, you know, it's not a Mossberg, it's not a Remington or whatever, it's not even a Maverick 88, but it's my first gun. It holds a special place in my heart for that reason. Up next is a gun that I have the least amount of time on. Remington 700 chambered in 308. So I can't really say much about it other than I got it for a decent price, I guess. It came with a scope and everything. The trigger on it is actually really good. It's really light. It's not an AccuTrigger, but it's pretty good for what it is. Other than that, it's an okay gun. Up next are my ARs. So the first one I'm going to bring out is my AR pistol build is a 10.5-inch barrel, is a Palmetto State Armory upper. You know, all Palmetto State parts actually. Lower parts kit, bolt carrier group. I switched out some parts though. I put a Magpul M-bus and an Magpul MOE handguard with a angled foregrip and a Bushnell TRS-25. Actually, this one's actually not bad. It's just relatively accurate for what it is. You know, I could use more practice with a short barrel air, but I've never had a malfunction with this. This one I keep on my bedside as well. It's loaded with a XM193. And I have this wonky little sling here that's attached to the loops on the back. But so far, this has been good to me, and I hope it doesn't fail me on those bad days. Up next is my latest AR build. Is a 20-inch barreled M16 build. It has Palmetto State Armory upper with a good old classic handguards that I absolutely hate, and Palmetto State what was it called, carry handle. Actually, most of this is actually Palmetto State actually, minus Magpul what's it called, trigger guard, and Magpul MOE grip. For this, you know, I could spend some more time on this, but you know, it's a relatively new build. I'm still breaking it in, but I could definitely say one thing: this one's really accurate. Me and my friends were at the range, and you know, it was his first time shooting this, and he shot all over the place. You know, it hit center mass, but the grouping was all over the place. I took this up. Oh, I should clear this. Took this up. Took 2 shots. Right in the head, right here, less than an inch apart, so it has potential. Put the safety back on. Alright, and the next AR is actually the first AR-15 that I've ever built. It is my 18-inch SPR concept build. This is the first AR I've ever built, so it also has some kind of a special place in my heart. I spent a lot of time on this, especially because as an AR stoner barrel, so that needed some work. It's accurate, but it needed some work for it to be 100% reliable. It's on a G-Wax lower, which is, you know, it's an okay lower, but because it's a G-Wax lower, which is made of polymer, plastic, and all that, this whole thing is less than 8 pounds. I think without the optic it was about 6 pounds actually, so it's really light. Shooting 77 grain match loads, I could definitely group this into one MOA, so there's that. Now down to my last AR-15. This is the second AR-15 that I've ever built. I spent the most money on this, and if I had to pick any weapon to take to war, this would be it. I call it my M4 build because of it uses an M4 profile barrel, even though it's a 16-inch barrel, but I've shot so many rounds through this. Out of all my ARs, I've shot the most out of this one. Anderson upper and lower, Palmetto State parts, Surefire and aim point parts, MFT stock. This is by far my favorite rifle because I spent so much time building this, and practicing with it is unbelievable. I've shot steel case, brass case, all the way from 55 grains to 77 grains. But this is by far the sweetest gun I've owned. Now, it's not like, you know, something like a LWRC or whatever, but, or BCM even, but for what I paid for this, I can't complain. Normally, I would keep, you know, a Lancer mag with green tips in it. Alright, so I guess that's it. Uh, leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you can. Gives me motivation to make more content. Hopefully, within the next year, I can upload more videos and stuff, do a little bit more shooting, and I just want to give back to community, to the gun community. Hopefully, convert some liberals to our side. Other than that, the SilverArk locking off, and Happy New Year's, everybody. Hope the next year coming up fills your life with happiness and good fortune.